Like there were
Oh
people
man.
that just like didn't understand the situation that were like calling me a cheater and stuff like that, right? Thinking that I like was roping out to get a competitive advantage.
Apparently the rule is that after the 50 minutes, there's still 3 turns left for each
Yeah.
player.
There was
And
there
Crip,
was not consistent enforcement on that rule.
okay.
So basically
So apparently,
what happened against Crip was like I think it's just because it wasn't the last set. Like they weren't waiting on us to generate the new round. They were just saying like guys finish up and they were asking what the results were. So I lost to Crip. It was like I think it was 4 or 5 rounds over the time limit, so it should have been a tie.
yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
said Crip won 2-1 because I mean I don't really like that rule. I think it's stupid, and Crip did win the game. But against me versus Mogwai, it was the last one. They mentioned I think it was like 5 minutes before the actual like end of our game. It was
Okay.
literally like halfway through the game. They said, "Guys, your game is a tie. We're generating the next round." His lineup was Deep, Fiora, like the Immortal Fiora thing, and the it was
Karma Ezra.
was it Karmizer? Yeah, it was PNZ Ionia. I don't even look. I
I
just
put it
see
up.
PNZ Ionia and I ban PNZ Ionia.
Don't even think it's like it might have been correct for Mogwai to ban the Lee Sin deck just because Will of Ionia
Definitely.
breaks his Fiora deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Therefore, it's kind of funny that the weakest deck only pulled bans from the strongest players, like from the only other Legends of Runeterra players.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense though.
Yeah,
It makes
because
sense though.
they are gonna be most inclined to ban Ionia as a rule of thumb.
Yeah. Chask asking a very important question. Could waiting so long on turn one have been a misplay? It telegraphs that you have Thermo. So this is like part of the problem with like this kind of like time back system in this sort of tournament format, which is that I mean, when you're playing competitively, like for example, I mean, you'll see. I think a good example is like Hearthstone events with Life Coach. Like a large part of the reason you rope actions, even when you don't have a lot of plays, or sometimes when you already know what you're gonna do, is because doing anything else just gives your opponent a hand read, which is very
Yeah,
powerful. If you're watching, like you hear me and Lobster poker players talking about like hand reads, it's a pretty big deal because minor probability swings change decisions like
that is
majorly.
true.
So
It ha-
like it's not that roping this action. The thing is you don't have a choice but to rope if you're thinking about whether to make the action or not. But what you can do is you can just make sure you don't snap off actions so you don't give your opponent information.
and for the same reason in poker, like you should tend to not make snap decisions. It has two big
Yeah.
upsides. It doesn't telegraph information, and it also allows you a bit of time to think more rationally, more logically about decisions which might otherwise be like a bit emotionally triggered.
Mogwai did hand
Although,
read Therm off of that. Yeah, exactly. He had to because I am not roping most of my decisions. If I'm roping a lot, that means I do have a thermo there 100% of the time because I can't rope other decisions because of the time limit. That's why I'm not roping as much as I normally would be.
were you thinking about dropping Skitter?
Yeah, basically, like, do you take like a bit of a tempo approach here? Because it's effectively like a 0 mana skitterer, but
Yeah,
it just
I
I'm thinking about what his plays are. His pass there reads Maokai pretty much, so I kind of like don't want to give like value to that. It's like I go Skitter, he goes Maokai. You know, my thermal beam is one short of being able to kill it at that point. So
yeah. Either that or he only holds removal and
yeah.
or only has reactive cards in hand. I like passing it back. On your attack turn, I'd be more inclined to just drop the Skitterer.
So this is the deep matchup, which is basically, I mean, every Shadow Isles deck is kind of the same. They just stall out the game until they play a big combo that wins, right? It's like, that's every Shadow Isles deck. We were talking before how, like, Karina's sort of similar to They Who Endure in that regard. And, I mean, they're both similar to Deep. It's like, we're both just kind of, like, waiting until our big boys are hitting the board. So the question is,
Yep, yep.
who's the time pressure on here, really?
At this point, it's kind of hard to say yet. Him barely having tossed anything yet, I'd say he's behind on clock. But that can change very quickly. So I really don't mind the Skitterer, especially because you are starting to run into hand size problems.
I
Super
take I
marginal.
take an attack there just because I want to be mana efficient. Like I know I'm gonna have to kill the Thresh anyway. Grasp is good. Oh, it looks like I decided to go in for a gotcha instead, which is
Yeah, gotcha, makes perfect sense.
yeah, it's just like banks a bit more. I can heal one later. Kind of no reason to grasp it instead of gotcha.
Yeah, thermal beam is also a good answer to the big deep sea monsters later on. So
Yeah, exactly.
not many targets your gotcha gets value from.
The thing about tournament formats, if you guys don't know, is like it's just ban Ionia and then play a lot of things that Ionia stops from existing on normal ladder. That's it. That's kind of how tournament strategy has literally always been. Always. And this is like, if you guys don't think Will of Ionia is OP and oppressive, you haven't played in tournaments, because that's like probably the single biggest reason why that is.
Yeah, will and deny.
Yeah,
just the combination of those two cards.
Shadow Isles versus Shadow Isles tends to be, regardless of the variant, it tends to just be very vanilla and just like who draws more big boys.
And at this point, you're probably ahead.
Yeah, the Nautilus has been dropped. I really just want to play Ledros and 9. That's kind of the most important thing with this deck. Drawing Ledros and 9 and playing Ledros 9. That's why this deck runs 3 Ledroses, which probably looks weird from a new player perspective. And that's why in a mirror, like if you're against another Shadow Isles deck, you should probably keep Ledros in your opening hand, which also seems weird. But you need to play Ledros on 9 with this deck.
That is true. Would I have preferred Vengeance here?
Yeah, this Vi is a little strange. I'm trying to remember why I took the Vi line here, because it normally looks like it should just be a Vengeance spot.
I agree.
Yeah, so Vengeance is obviously the first thing that comes to mind. I'm trying to remember. I was basically thinking about just like powering him down super early, putting on pressure, because like if I play Ledros here, then we have a chance of basically just closing out the game super aggressively.
But if you play Ledros, most likely Nautilus is going to flip very soon. And he has an actual blocker for Ledros. Not quite sure. I think he was far
enough away from deep at this point in time. We can't actually check until I hover over it. I think he has a bricked out hand in this matchup. He's pretty far from deep, and I just want to be able to try to power him down before that can come online. So I'm thinking basically just kill him with Fearsome. We've got like Mystic Shots, which allows for a kind of like a more aggressive strategy as well. Like, if he's able to kill the Ledgers, we can still kill him very quickly with this sort of approach.
That's fair. I'm not really sure what Vi accomplishes at this point.
Just challenging a blocker so Ledgers gets in.
You mean in case he does play a 3-attack plus unit, yeah.
Or for Nautilus flipping. If he plays like, I don't know, a Dreg Judges here and threatens Jettison, then I challenge Nautilus and just go in for 9. Try to end the game.
Right, that kind of makes sense, okay.
Yeah. And that's a very common thing that Karina decks, they basically haven't changed much structurally with the update, but Vi changes how they play a lot. Because when you can challenge her, Ledros' Fearsome has ridiculously higher odds of getting through than it did before. But with just one challenger on board, Ledros' Fearsome punch just becomes an actual win condition.
Okay, that's interesting. He passes with 12 mana banked.
Yeah.
I need to pull up a deck list here, see how many Vengeances he runs. His Nautilus hero card, of course, always being a threat of bouncing your Ledros back into your deck.
And that's something I didn't properly play around. And I think, if I remember correctly, if I'm not confusing the set, I think this loses me the match, because he has the Nautilus champ card here.
Right, so he runs 0 Vengeances. That's interesting. He does run 1 Ruination, though, and he would have used it he wouldn't have used it with Nautilus on board.
This is a fascinating position. I mean, it depends how far we think I'm ahead here. There was a call to literally pass here and only go in when we have Vengeance, so that if he does this, we can Vengeance our own Ledros so we don't lose him. Because losing Ledros, not getting him back, is like an unironic lose condition here. I think it's really rare that the game will play out in exactly this way, which is like, he has the Nautilus second card, we don't have like a redraw into one of the 3 Ledgerses into our deck, or like enough damage to over the top him with like any of the other damage sources in our deck, and he attritions us for the next 5 or 6 rounds. I think that's pretty rare, but that's what happens here.
True. Also it would be important to know how far Nautilus is from flipping here, just to know on how much of a clock we're in. But I think I agree with what you're saying, especially looking at the deck list. He even main decks 1 Riptide. Not only, like, Vengeance is not the only answer we have to sacrificing our Ledros. That's another reason why I really like Glimpse, like as a 2 or 3 off in this deck.
Yeah.
The most mana efficient way, you could have done it on this attack. And you could have also, like, at this point, grasped double Mystic Shot. It's very inefficient, though, but double grasping your Ledros, I have won games that way.
Yeah. Lobster's version was running 3 glimpses, and we cut it down to, I think, 1 here. So you really would have, in that position, where we're in such a good position that you think the only way we lose is basically to Ledros getting shuffled in and all of that playing out like that, such that you would pass, burn mana, and threaten to vengeance your own Ledros off the off chance that he has exactly 1 Riptide in his hand and not 0 or 2.
It's
because it's very possible. That's what I was thinking as soon as the game played out the way it did. But it's really deviant as a line.
I'm not sure if I would have done it in Euro Boots, but just knowing you almost run no card draw in this deck, and yeah, that is the way we lose, is losing our Ledros off of the board. And it's super. Yeah.
It's another argument to just vengeancing the Nautilus instead of course, using the Vi when we did. I think that's the real correct answer. The real correct answer is because of our hand state, because of his hand state. Most importantly, he's on a brick hand. We want to play very safe. We want to respect narrow ranges of hands. And because of that, we're supposed to vengeance his Nautilus. His double Nautilus draw is much more likely, and given our hand state of 1 Ledros, 0 Karina, a very legitimate lose. 1 Ledros, 0 Karina, 0 Glimpse. A very legitimate lose condition such that we're supposed to vengeance the Nautilus instead of vying. That's the oopsie. And that takes a lot of foresight to do, but it's very, very possible, and I should have done that. Like, if I'm thinking about it more, I will do that.
Yeah, it's thinking very far ahead, but like once we have enough time to think it through and analyze it from the third-person perspective, it looks like the correct call.
I want to be very clear. So the way ranges work is the same as in poker, which is you start with like a wide range, infinite range, could be any card randomly, and then it's just a process of elimination. When you see them decline certain spots, you're like, okay, his range is narrowing. He doesn't have X card, so every other card has a heightened chance to be in his hand, right? Hand reading is not so much about specific cards being in hand, it's about specific cards not being in hand, thus the odds of any other card being higher. That's kind of what hand reading is. Now, he's playing very, 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 very specific here. He has an extremely narrow range on his hand, right? It's like, because he doesn't have his like deep enablers, he doesn't have early plays, and that puts his range on like a lot of like healing cards, like double Nautilus, like Nautilus Riptide. It makes the odds of him having stuff like a double Nautilus hand, the odds of that are going to be double or even higher, what the hypergeometric calculator would say. I don't think there's really anything else crazy happening here. It's like, he sends the Ledros back into our deck, he gets into deep, we don't have enough reach. It would be nice to redraw like second Ledros or maybe the Karina a bit earlier, but I think that the rest of this game is just kind of like a closeout where we're struggling to draw a card and not hitting it. This game actually stalls out a good amount, but we still don't draw a card.
We can skip this. I think most of these...
they're just it's just like top deck mode and late game decks.
Exactly. Not much decision making.
Yep. Basically, this is a matchup. We're playing a fairly standard Bannerman deck. This is a matchup where we want to be aggressive. We mulliganed pretty well, and we didn't really have early plays. We didn't have any 1-drops or 2-drops, which is pretty bad for us.
Yeah, but from that spot on, we have a lot of flexibility in hand. We have all of our value cards. Citria is super important. I was wondering why Mogwai is main decking Valor. Now I'm kind of seeing some of the cool interactions here. I was thinking about it. Like, it was kind of weird at first, but yeah, the double kit onto this, like that sort of thing is pretty adorable. Yeah, he might have specifically had Badger Bears in mind. Also, Valor with standalone and like tough, like giving a scout making a scout bigger than the average Demacia unit with standalone is so big. Yeah, and I like the deck. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I like it a lot. Also, against Burn, it's really good, right? Valor standalone, you can get, you basically develop, or you prevent 2 attacks rather than 1. Chat saying Valor was an alternate target, or he main decked it for Radiant Guardian, turn 5 it can attack, so it's like Valor attacks into 5 with Radiant Guardian, and you can do it off of spell mana. Ah. Yeah, that's pretty good. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's a very creative deck, but I like it. I think that's heads up. Mogwai roped as much as you. He didn't rope quite as much as me. Yeah, for this match, he roped more than me. I mean, that's just because I'm playing the brain dead deck and he's playing the deck that has to think, right?
Yeah, and it was the opposite in game one, where I was like playing Karina and he was playing deep, so I had to rope more than him there.
So you decide to go double Badger, go wide. I think I like it. You know Mogwai has mana for unyielding up. He's most likely going to use it. I think you didn't even attack with a 4-2 Badger, which I also like. Oh wait, it's Mogwai's attack anyway.
Yeah, it's the attack turn. Yeah, I mean I think there's sort of nothing crazy to do here. He's just doing like a burst pass. I mean,
yeah.
I think we're always gonna do Badger Bear. Whether we pass first or let him commit first doesn't make a difference. I don't think we're bluffing him out of attacking by having Rico stuff. So yeah, we're pretty much we're in a spot where we have to commit to like the Cythria swing.
Exactly.
Right now we're watching out for Judgment. Was his list at 1 or 2 judgments?
It's 1 judgment.
So we do a swing in here, and I think here's the oopsie of the matchup. I go in for like a single combat that is incredibly counterable. Yeah, he's at 2 mana, but his entire deck is answers. His like single combat, Chain Vest, Elixir of Iron. I don't remember if he was on any amount of Radiant Strike. Like the odds of him having something that makes the single combat kind of poo-poo are 70,
Did you go single
75.
Combat Garen into the Archer?
Yeah, Garen into the Archer. Basically, it goes for value. It can force out a single combat from him, which is really nice. It can, threaten Garen leveling up. It can keep the Fleet Feather alive. Fleet Feather being alive is actually somewhat useful since we're racing down. And single combat kind of can't get better targets than this because, of course, we can never use it on Fiora. So I don't know. It's an extremely counterable play, but it might have to be necessary.
The good thing, what I like about this play is if he pops the single combat with Fiora now,
then
Fiora
he loses
doesn't
a kill.
get a stack.
Exactly. And I think that's big. That's why I did this. I think I remember in the moment kind of feeling like it was a misplay for a bit. I think this had to be correct though. This was the best single combat I was ever getting. Forcing his Fiora to lose out on a kill is really big here.
This is a hard spot to analyze because also a flipped Garen would be very impactful for you.
Yeah.
But you'll always have that problem as long as he holds single combat. He can't go over the top of yours.
Yeah. He has to either single combat and lose a kill to stop the Garen from flipping, or if he saves his Archer, the Garen will flip.
Slowing down Fiora is more important than shortening your own clock by flipping Garen, which is very situational because you'd need to draw protection for him first.
Yeah, and this game is just on the closeout.
Yeah.
He has no re-answer to this.
Yeah, that was well played. I liked it.
What if Mogwai had Judgment there? Yeah, we can't play around Judgment. We don't have the ability to.
Yeah, and it is a one-off at that point. Yeah. Judgment is just GG.
What do you think about this mulligan spot? Karina versus Fiora.
So Ledros is a keep for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
Thermal
thinking
Beam
too.
is a keep. Is Vengeance a keep? Okay. You got lucky enough redrawing it.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, I should have kept Ledros. Vengeance is a bit of a weird keep. I think that this version, I'm trying to remember, I think it was only on 1. So I think we have positions to force him to force us to have Vengeance. I feel like there's not a ton that matters in this matchup, and Vengeance usually won't matter, but it's one of the few things that could matter. It's like we can force him to, like, we can punish him for playing Fiora before he has like unyielding mana, or like, because unyielding is only part of how the deck wins. Sometimes you go for like big standalone stuff, and Vengeance can blow that sort of thing out.
If the rest of our hand would have been Elise, Vi, Brute Awakening, we might not want to keep the Vengeance, but rather look for, like, change our game plan and try to overrun our opponent, or at least get considerable damage in before he gets unyielded lifesteal or something like that. With his hand, I can get behind keeping the Vengeance, yeah.
Would you Thermo Beam this spot? See, this is very weird.
I don't think I would.
It's kind of a terrible Thermo Beam. I end up going for it. I think
he plays 2 chambers and 2 elixirs, though.
Yeah, no, it almost certainly doesn't go off. It has a chance of, like, forcing a decent answer out of him. And I feel like it has an extremely low future potential in this matchup. I don't know. Maybe that was just a dumb Thermo. I'm trying to remember exactly why I took that Thermo. I feel like there was a deeper reason. That looks weird.
It looks like just a dumb Thermo from here. Like, Thermo does have potential because most of the time your opponent plays a minion he wants to unyield on one turn and only has mana to unyield it the next turn. And that's exactly where Thermo Beam is your most important card, along with Vengeance. Now, having a Vengeance in hand, I don't mind being a bit more liberal with the Thermo. But knowing your opponent has a million answers, and also Chain Vest being a big answer, as in you cannot even, like, the tracker will also trade with the Spider for free when you attack.
It was on what, 2 Chain
Vests? I don't really like it.
I was thinking that it's the only opportunity to get it in under something like Standalone, and it's never going to have impact on something like Fiora. It feels like I'm just looking at the future potential of this card, and it feels like it's 0. Like, it feels like this card will actually just never do anything here.
I don't know. I kind of disagree, especially because with your current hand state, you will be banking a lot of mana on turns. And maybe on turn 4 or turn 6 or 7 or something, you'll just get like a Thermo Beam that would even go on top of the Standalone. And
no, that
Mogwai
had
does
to
not
be
play
an That had to be.
Mogwai does not play a single riposte or barrier, so it's always going to hit for damage.
This game played out really weird. This was just like symmetrical passes all the way down. It's like we're never going to be first actor.
Yeah, that's where Thermo Beam increases in value usually.
I don't know. I mean, I can't see his hand. People were saying like I was behind at a certain point. I feel like I'm ahead until the Karina comes down and we roll for like 1. Because like the way this game plays out is basically ideal for me.
To have enough reach to kill your opponent.
So this pass chain really confuses me. To me, this says he has a bad hand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this passing chain can only be good for me.
I don't remember his hand, but I would agree it seems to favor you. It is smart by Mogwai, though, that he only drops Fiora when he can unyield her on the same turn. Yeah, I mean, this could be a bluff, but like 98% of the time it's not. Probably even higher. So I don't see a point in throwing removal in there.
Basically, it's just forcing it out, forcing him to spend the mana. I don't know. I mean, it might have just been like completely asinine because like a Mystic Shroud is a very, very valuable tool.
Yeah, if you do something, it should be Grasp. This looks like an oopsie to me.
The Grasp is for the Elise. Like, okay, so if I grasp the Elise without forcing his mana,
he can sing a combat.
Yeah, and keep his options
he can't,
out.
Because then you can double Mystic Shot Fiora.
Well, but he'll have a full mana bar. He has a full hand of ways to keep Fiora alive. And I can't use my Mystic Shots.
Not if you have Vengeance, though. That's the thing.
Well, I wouldn't have enough mana for all of that,
You're at 8 plus 3, 11.
This is like the most interesting play.
Yeah, okay.
I sort of feel... I know the Mystic Shot is wasted, but I almost feel like I have to. But Mystic Shot is an incredible win condition here. It's so expensive to use it, but it still feels necessary.
No, but... You are at a spot where you can throw one away because Ledros is going to chop him down to 10. Karina on average is going to hit for 3.5, I think, in this deck. So after both Karinas, your opponent's going to be on 3 life. The thing is, he does run 3 Kindly Tavern Keeper, so you would love to have 6 burn.
Yeah, the kindly Tavern Keeper might be the thing that pushes it over the edge. I mean, so the alternative play is what? Just do nothing? I could just do nothing here.
Like, intuitively, I think I would have done nothing.
Burning mana feels so bad, though, because once we hit, like, the 9 post turns, I will never be able to grasp her Vengeance, ever.
That you have a point, right? This does deny a Fiora target, but... So, basically what you're doing is, denying a Fiora target by sacrificing a Mystic Shot.
Yeah, and I think that's worth it. I think that's worth it, but I don't know. This is the hardest call, I think.
Yeah, you having an Aristocrat in board, that's kind of... That makes me tilt towards liking it, because otherwise... Like, you would always have to sing a combat plus expending another card to kill either Vi, Ledros, or Karina. But he can't farm targets on the Aristocrat, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we run 3 glimpses in this deck.
Yeah. No. I'm not gonna go to 3, but I'll go to 2. I'll go to 2.
2 is
I like 2. I like 2.
Okay, yeah.
We might have to watch the rest of the game play out before we can decide on.
I definitely take back calling that an oopsie.
It's hard.
Probably very marginal. You only run 1 Get Excited as additional burn. He could pick up another Ledros though. Oof, it's somewhere out there in math land, but I don't know what the exact answer is. So you want to bounce Ledros here?
Yeah. I mean, I want to force something at least. Like, bouncing Ledros gives me more options. I end up playing the Karina over the Ledros, which, I don't know, might be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Okay. I mean, this is giving him a target, right? You do realize that at this point you might already have enough burn in hand to finish him off.
I think the Ledros attack might have just been very, very dumb. I think that's an oopsie. I think that has to be an oopsie.
Also, I'm not even sure if Vi pulls the tracker here. No, like knowing that he runs 3 Radiant Guardians. It's a very different thing if you. He
passes here at 9 mana. I always pass back. This is a hardcore oopsie. This one definitely is, right? No way around that.
Yeah. This one does look like a oopsie. For multiple reasons as well.
Yeah. Then we'll put this one on the oopsie tally.
Yeah, the Karina or Ledros thing, right?
Yeah. So
what were you hoping for there?
It's super important. Well, like you said, Karina's average damage is 3.5 roughly. So I go in with Karina. He's down to what, 6.5, and then we've got kind of the second Karina going off. Karina gives hurting the Radiant Guardian helps a bit. Overall,
how though? Why does the Radiant Guardian hurting it matter?
Because we have the ability to double Karina before it can attack, so we can deny some lifesteal.
I guess that makes sense. I'm kind of surprised he didn't attack with a Guardian, by the way.
Yeah, that seems weird too. I don't know. I mean, I think both of us were misplaying at this point because we're both just rushing our decisions. This is around the point. I'm trying to remember when all this happened because he crashed at one point. He came back, and right after he came back, the admin said, "Just close your games. The game is over. This game has gone to a tie," which is.
Okay.
I guess it's just because we were so far overtime and they had to generate the next round. We were the last set, I think, by a high margin.
Yeah. But you guys still felt like rebels and wanted to continue your
pretty much,
for glory? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I felt quite favored here, and as soon as the Karina came down for 1 damage, I think suddenly I'm behind. He's got odds for one Tavern Keeper in hand.
I do think Ledros would have been the correct play, though.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it had to have been.
Any Karina post Ledros is going to be more valuable.
Like I said, in these last 2 minutes, the admins are basically we're getting a bunch of messages saying the game's going to a tie, finish up. So I'm rushing a lot of decisions. I think he is too. I mean, you can see I'm snapping off decisions without thinking about it very much. We made 2 oopsies in the past minute and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are saying I'm intentionally roping this. It's actually very obvious in both this and the Crypt game that I'm rushing myself and making misplays.
True.
It is literally the opposite of what I'm being accused of.
Yeah, and Mogwai, I have to admit, he did have some tough turns here. I recall he was holding double single combat and some protection spells, and it was kind of a weird spot to be.
Chat saying time rules in LoR is such a bad rule. I mean, I don't agree with that. There kind of needs to be some amount of time rules, but they need to be admined consistently. They need to be very apparent to everyone how they are, which they weren't from the outset, and they should be longer than 50 minutes, and it should use some kind of time bank system. I'm not sure exactly what.
Yeah.
So for those of you guys who don't know, I'll explain part of what happened in this situation, which is that there were a lot of in the past there were the admins kind of stretched it out. For example, my game against Crip, they were saying it's gone to a tie, wrap it up. And they said that a few times, and we were overtime, and it should have been a tie, but they didn't generate the next round yet. So, I mean, I was saying, yo, it's 2-1, Crip won, which was kind of weird. They went extra overtime for that set, and I think that happened in other people's games as well. I think it happened to Mogwai as well at one point, because a lot of games were technically going minorly overtime, and they gave round extensions in almost every case. But in this case, they just generated the next round.
Apparently, so someone said, Wingthorpe said, Mogwai did not see Swim's hand with that much burn. In his opinion, the game was pretty much over when he dropped Unyielding.
Which is, I I like my hand was very much ahead at that point. Like both of us had ahead situations. Both of us in our minds were like 70-80% to win at that point in time.
With him not having attacked earlier, I wouldn't even be sure if you are behind, because you having the Wild Feast in hand, you can also like shut down. You can elect to either shut down Fiora leveling or the lifesteal he gets from Radiant Guardian. So at that point, it wasn't, from your point of view, for sure, it wasn't clear, it wasn't obvious yet who was ahead even. And I get that from Mogwai's perspective, holding two single combat and you having spiders on board, it looks like he's super far ahead. But like you have so many ways of killing your own stuff as well. Seems a bit odd. Like even here right now, like Ledros into Karina into double Mystic Shot is most likely going to be lethal.
Yeah, I mean, he always has like kindly tavern keepers. He always has like, you know,
true.
Like,
if he,
I don't know.
Yeah, at least it's a Hearthstone lethal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I wanted this to be an analysis stream. I want to be clear of drama, and we're gonna be past it in a few minutes. But I guess I'll just say like this was one of the worst days of my life. Do I look happy to you? Like look at the screen right now. Look at like anything that's happening. Do I like? I'm very very pissed off about like immediately when the ruling came down and when the next round got generated. I'm extremely unhappy with the situation. I'm pissed. I don't like what happened. I don't like the like inconsistency in the ruling. I am just like really frustrated right now. And this is before, by the way, this is before people are coming into my chat and calling me a cheater. That happened later. Me and Mogwai don't hate each other. I don't know. People just really want there to be beef, I guess. Like I have so many people coming into my chat and being like, "Hey, bro, are you or Mogwai okay?" As if like we wouldn't be okay.